Hello and welcome back to the Boropolis podcast. As usual, I am joined with Nathan. And well, if you are watching on YouTube, you'll already be able to tell from the smile on both of our faces that Middlesbrough are back to winning ways. We are back. I mean, I might just leave the sentence there. We might be back. No, what I was going to say is we are back to review the win against Stoke at the Riverside, look ahead to West Brom and Watford, and of course, have a bit of crack if we've got any. I mean, people that listen may disagree throughout, but yeah, Nathan, straight into things. Obviously, we've won. I know you've been at work today, but it always makes a weekend so much better when you get a 3 points and you can just laugh at the likes of Manchester United folding yet again today.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris. It sets the weekend up nice when Boro win. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't necessarily have too much of a good feeling going into the weekend, but I'm glad that we've turned it round and yeah, got 3 points on the board, and it was just deserved as well with the performance, which was very pleasing after last week and our outcries for visible changes. And look, we got them, so it was perfect. Perfect, deserved 3 points, and yeah, a win on the board at home, which is lovely.
Yeah, and just before we do dive into kind of yesterday's action and all the talking points from yesterday, I do just want to say thank you ever so much for all of the Sunderland fans that left lovely comments and gave us one of our best performing podcasts on YouTube for a good couple of months. So, Sunderland fans, really appreciate all the support on the last video. Honestly, it was nice to see so many of you expressing your opinions. There was one comment referring to why footballers get paid as much as the value of my house. I don't know if the comment was referring to yours as well. Now I don't know how he's managed to get that information, but yeah, there was all kinds of weird and wonderful sort of hate and just plenty of comments. Which, do you know what, I was quite happy to see. I'm always open to opinions and a few tears as well. Which is even more strange considering they won the game. But yeah, Sunderland fans, if you are tuning in this week, then what a result for your title winning side yesterday. It was nice to see that you followed up such a convincing win last week with another A-star performance this week. So all the best. You might not break 100 points now, unfortunately. But yeah, Nathan, we might break 100 points. Of course, we won yesterday. Could this be the start of something wonderful? No, I'm just getting way ahead of myself. In all seriousness, Nathan, as you said, we went into yesterday with not a whole lot of optimism. I think partially down to the fact that Stoke, as we said last week, do tend to turn into Real Madrid whenever they rock up at the Riverside. And also during the week, there hasn't been all too much kind of promise in terms of positive news with injuries. We got the news, or kind of, it wasn't as such news at that point, but we saw the rumours circulating around social media only a few hours before kickoff that there was yet more injury problems. And actually, two of the kind of positives from this season as a whole so far, the addition of Tommy Conway and, of course, Baldini as well, who it transpires both actually missed the game. Now, obviously, with the benefit of hindsight and with the benefit of recording this the day after, we now know that fortunately, and I mean, sometimes this doesn't mean all too much, but there seems to be a bit of a positive update that actually they're not going to be too long term, and we should hopefully see them perhaps at Watford. And I think there was even a sniff that maybe they may actually be okay even for Tuesday night at West Brom. But I mean, with our injury record, there's no chance of that. We might see them around Christmas time probably. But those injuries did mean that there was a couple of changes. And I think the two main ones, which everyone had been crying out for, including us, Riley McGree back in the team and Ben Doak back in the team. Of course, Anthony Dijksteel come in as well for the injured Matt Clark. But overall, we got our wish, Nathan. and we saw the changes on the flanks that not only ourselves but most Middlesbrough fans have been crying out for.
Yeah, look, last week we discussed in depth what we felt that our problems were in terms of the system. I spoke at length about the left-hand side and the need for McGree in that system because he's the best player to play in that left-hand sided inverted role. And then Doak on the right-hand side. Look, we'd seen him last week at Sunderland and in his cameo against Preston that he's direct and he's going to try and get at his fullback. But we also spoke about the way that we wanted the game to go in terms of how we would isolate Ben Doak or Isaiah Jones or just methods in which we'd be able to create chances more comfortably than just horseshoeing it round. And we did that yesterday, down to a T, playing through the middle of the pitch and then towards the left-hand side. Quick switch over at the right-hand side, and Doak was constantly in that first half, especially out there by himself, isolating Eric Bocat at left back, and he had a field day, didn't he? He just every time he got the ball, direct, straight at Bocat, trying to cross the ball in, trying to create shooting opportunities, and it made us look a miles better side in terms of creating chances. Yeah, much more pleasing from a performance perspective, Chris.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It was more of kind of the Middlesbrough side under Michael Carrick that you've come to expect, at least what we've seen flashes of over the last kind of 3 seasons. And we spoke so much about the phrase horseshoeing last week and the kind of tedious sideways, 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 come back inside, go sideways again, and then the cycle starts once more. And I don't think, honestly, as such, that it is a major issue because we've seen success that that exact tactic can have. But the most important thing that you said was we did horseshoe at times, but we did it that extra bit quicker with that extra bit of intent. And that meant that when we were horseshoeing it, we were allowing the team to create 1v1 situations. And when you do horseshoe it, we spoke about it last week, you've got to have wingers or attackers who are happy to kind of take matters into their own hands and commit fullbacks, and almost when you have been so structured, have that one maverick within the team who is going to go, right, okay, that's lovely. We've kept possession for this amount of time, but we need to fashion an opening here, or we need to try and, as you say, isolate a fullback, play a quick pass. And I thought, I mean, we'll get on to individual performances, but I thought, as you say, first half especially, we got so much joy out of, for me, yesterday, probably the three key men, Riley McGree, Hayden Hackney, and Ben Doak. Often there would be a phase of play where it would come out to McGree on the left. He'd come inside, he'd come back out to Hackney, and Hackney was so happy to just take one touch and fizz it straight out to Doak. And that quick transition and the fact that he was just willing to go one pass, go get the ball to Doak as much as possible. And I said, even in previous episodes, Ben Doak is probably going to be one of those players where occasionally he's going to have a game and you're going to think, oh my God, how frustrating is he to watch? But also he's going to have games like he did yesterday where he gets a load of joy and he causes problems. And that's exactly what he did in the first half. And yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that he's definitely made an impact already, hasn't he?
100%. Yeah. Making defenders commit to challenges, and 9 times out of 10 they're getting nowhere near him because he's just so quick. I thought that, and this is something that everyone will have picked up on, obviously, is that his directness was just outstanding. He's willing to get at players. The only thing is, and obviously this is the case, a young player playing in the championship, his first sort of proper senior minutes. He had cameos for Liverpool, but this is going to be his first extended run of senior football, and it will come with time, but just that little bit of end product. I know he scored yesterday, but opportunities as he's getting to the byline, sometimes and I said this that it's fine and it's a good decision to do this at certain opportunities, but just smashing the ball across the face of goal, yes, it can take a nick off a Boro player or an opposition player, and it might go in the back of the net. But just a little bit more sort of composure to actually like pick your head up and find someone in the middle wouldn't go amiss in future games. There was a couple of opportunities as he come inside on his left foot and he hit the corner flag twice with two shots. And then another one where I think he got ahead of himself. He slipped over, but he did well to recover that one and lay one off to Hackney at the edge of the box that created an opportunity as well. He looks like a very exciting player. We've seen him in short cameos, and yesterday was the first sort of actual opportunity to see what he could do from the start. Fantastic. Made a top impression. And look, it's up to Isaiah Jones now to give us something similar when he's on the pitch. Be direct and make defenders make decisions. But yeah, Ben Doak yesterday, top class. But as mentioned, it wasn't necessarily all just him. It was the team creating those opportunities for him to be 1v1 against Bocat and in the nicest way possible, pretty much just kill him with his pace.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, talking of kind of individual performances, obviously Doak gets the plaudits for the goal and obviously how exciting he can be. But straight away, you know yourself how much of a fan of Riley McGree I am. I mean, I talk about it to you nearly every day, how much I love him as a footballer. And it's nothing new. We all know how talented Riley McGree is. And sometimes I think because of the emphasis on stats and goals and assists, players like Riley McGree sometimes don't get the plaudits that they deserve. And I think, to be fair, it's not actually so much a case with Middlesbrough fans because everyone screams out for him whenever he's not in the team. But Riley McGree, my goodness, he just makes us tick. He is just everything that I love in a footballer. And yes, okay, as I say, he might not score, he might not get an assist. I mean, can you give him half an assist for yesterday because it's his shot, which ultimately is parried out to Doak? I don't know, but I mean, I'd probably give him it just because I love him. But in all seriousness, he just makes the right decision so much. And look, he's not the same type of player as Morgan Rogers, but on that point of, stats sometimes clouding people's judgments on players, you've seen Morgan Rogers has been getting absolutely rave reviews for Aston Villa this season, and he's only just scored his first Premier League goal of the season today. And Riley McGree yesterday, more often than not, in the final third, he's just got what you're referring to with regards to Ben Doak. He's just got that composure to pick his head up and make the right pass. And as I say, when you're horseshoeing it or getting closer to an opposition goal, you need at least one player where he has composure to just pick his head up and sometimes just hold off and then pick the right pass, or sometimes, wait for a player to make a run beyond him. And on that point, I thought Neto Borges looked so much more comfortable with Riley McGree in the team yesterday. Even defensively, the understanding of when McGree was going to come inside a little bit, as he often does, to get the ball and pick up really nice spaces, it allows Borges to go forward. But even defensively, I just thought Borges looked so much more comfortable with him ahead of him yesterday.
Yeah, he did 100%. I agree with you on that point. And I also felt that with McGree in the team and Azaz playing in his natural number 10, as we discussed last week, it made him look way more comfortable as well. I thought in that first half, I thought that Azaz was pretty good. One instance in particular that stands out to me was Boro playing out from the goalkeeper, Dieng, come out to our right hand side. Anthony Dijksteel skipped past, I think it was by Jun Ho, and played a ball into Azaz, and he just flicked the ball around the corner with his left foot out wide, and Borges was on his way already. It just set us off straight away from the off. One touch, the awareness of Azaz to just be able to play that pass, fantastic. Yeah, I felt like McGree's introduction to the side yesterday, just not only do you get what he offers in terms of himself as a footballer, but he makes everything else around him more comfortable. Borges as more comfortable in those positions. I think with McGree in the team, that perhaps lifts a weight off Azaz a little bit than when he's on the left with Conway and Lath in the team, because he doesn't have all of the creative burden on his shoulders. He has McGree there alongside him to help with that. So yeah, really, really pleasing. I thought that those three all were a lot more comfortable yesterday with McGree in the team on that left hand side. He does. There's no doubt about it. He makes us a miles better team when he's in that position on the left hand side.
It is almost like, I think I referred to it a few episodes ago, but when Claude McAlealy had that role just in front of the back four named after him, in Teesside or on Teesside, that left-hand side role is the Riley McGree role. No one else can play it. No one else gets close to what he offers the team when he's in that position. And as you say, he just makes us a much, much better team. And as much as, I think everyone was absolutely delighted in the summer, but it's one of those where you look at our summer signings and actually, for all of the hype about players that we brought in from other clubs, retaining Riley McGree, for me, is honestly still one of our best pieces of business. Because I think in the Championship, there's not many, okay, yes, goals and assist wise, you're going to get players that will probably offer you a little bit more. But in terms of what he brings, as I say, is kind of ability to just make the right pass or make the right movement or make the right run so often is the exact reason why he's probably held off. Because for me, he's such a clever footballer. I love watching him. And yeah, it could even, I don't know what look he's actually sporting at the moment, but it could mean the return of a burst fade and an attempted tash, even though I couldn't grow one even if I was trying. But yeah, I love him that much. I'll probably mold whatever look he goes for. I'll just try and mirror that. But on the topic of Riley McGree, we actually take the lead courtesy of a positive moment from him. He gets the ball out wide, drives inside, and on his weaker foot, aims a shot at Victor Johansson. Johansson parries it out, and Doak's kind of, as you say, really good awareness of him just to come in at the back stick and tap it in and get his first senior goal, which is obviously a massive moment in any footballer's career. But do you know what I loved about this goal? And it's such a simple thing. One of our attacking midfielders just putting the foot through the ball. I'm sick of watching players get to the edge of the box. And you mentioned it, the Hayden Hackney chance. Gets to the edge of the box. And it's almost like we're terrified to just put the foot through the ball. And it sounds like such a simple coaching point. And it's not me just being like, just whack everything. One of them will go in. It's just sometimes you do have to put a bit more power on a football if you are shooting from distance. And Riley McGree, although it's his weaker foot, he actually tests Johansson and we get the benefit of it.
Thank God, because Victor Johansson is like a Terminator against us usually. Yeah, so pleased that he just parried that into Doak's hands, into Doak's feet. Sorry, my God. But something that really pleased me as well, and this was on the point of last week, and playing with a lot more intensity and just a real drive to take the game to the opposition and take the lead. And that is Emmanuel Latte-Lath is defending in this instance, and he's having a little tussle with the Stoke player. Gets the free kick, and we were actually in an attacking situation at the time, so a lot of our defenders were high up the pitch. Latte-Lath wins this free kick, and just bang, puts the ball down, takes it, passes it straight to McGree, shot off, saved goal. So quick, just not no sort of delay to then take the free kick and take it like a proper free kick and whip it into the box and it results in nothing. Don't let them get set and bang, you go 1-0 up. Really, really pleased for Doak to get his first goal. It's always nice when you have a lone player, a young one at that as well, and get them off the mark very early. It'll do his confidence the world of good. And hopefully it's the first of many for him. But yeah, Latte Lath, we spoke last week on him and his impact outside of just taking shots, and that he wasn't doing enough in terms of what we wanted for him. Yesterday involved in both goals, and not only that, just had a fantastic afternoon of just running, harrying defenders, and I suppose we'll get onto it in the second half. But just before he was subbed, one of the best moments of the game when he absolutely launched a Stoke centre half into the West Stand. Just class, love him.
Yeah, yeah, we will get on to some individual praise for Manu because I think he actually really does deserve it, especially given the circumstances. But as you say, we'll get on to that a little bit later. And obviously, he did have an involvement in the second goal as well, didn't he? But as you say, obviously, we take the lead, and as you say, it's really nice to see such intent. And Emmanuel Latilaf does bring you that. I mean, for all of his critics, he is a player that lives off being on the front foot, chasing things down, having that we want to cause you problems attitude. And sometimes, even last week, I know there's often a lot of talk about the tactical side of the game and the technical side of the game. But sometimes I think when you're a team at home that has so much of the ball, there's almost a mentality aspect to the way that you play. You've got to get it in your head nice and early in a game, especially where, I mean, to be fair to Stoke, they didn't kind of just camp 11 men behind the ball. They actually had a couple of goals at actually going and trying to attack us. And I mean, I said in the last podcast, I'd be amazed if they didn't just put a load of men behind the ball and let Middlesbrough try and break them down. I think, to be honest, I'd be more worried from a Stoke perspective that their new manager hasn't been able to actually see the pattern of everything that Middlesbrough have struggled with this season and go, right, we're just going to try and copy that. It stinks or stunk of a manager coming in first or second proper game as a manager and going, right, I've got to put my stamp on things. I don't care what the opposition are going to do. We're going to try and do this. And you saw in the first half trying to play out from the back. And God, I love him. I love everything that he did for us. But trying to get Ben Gibson to play kind of short passes between him and the goalkeeper, it just put them under pressure. And it was just really naive from Stoke.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a goalkeeper there who is fantastic at shot stopping, but he played for Rotherham. He was just twonking the ball 25 foot into the air and hoping that Jordan Hugill took it down on his bonds. Yeah, they were pathetic yesterday, really. I thought their fans were booing after 15 minutes yesterday, Chris. They were sort of just passing around the ball around the edge of their own box with absolutely no intent to knock it into midfield or even into a front man. Just yeah, they were dross. They
I
were
was,
a really
I'm,
poor side.
Yeah, I must say I was really disappointed with Stoke. And to be honest, obviously you don't know it. The manager's a fairly unknown one where, yeah, okay, he's been involved in the league, but you don't know. And he hasn't had long to put his stamp on things, so you can't really make a fair kind of judgment. But I thought they were pathetic, as you say. And the whole idea of kind of not just coming to the Riverside. And it's annoying in the sense of, as a home fan, you don't want to watch teams do that. But if you're a new manager looking to make a fairly decent start and get points on the board, you've seen the blueprints there from multiple other teams. Why not just go and do the exact same? But that's enough on Stoke because, as I say, I mean, they were pathetic, weren't they, Nathan?
Yeah, they were just last thing. I don't know if you'll have seen it, but before the game, when the players shake hands, all the Stoke players then walked over to their own dugout and all stood in a line and high-fived each member of staff and each of the substitutes. And I just looked at that and I thought, one, why haven't you done that when you were inside a minute ago? Two, if that's to prove that you're all together, we'll soon see if you're all together with your performance on the pitch. They were shite, really.
Yeah,
That's the end of
I,
that.
I think you said that about every team, but I didn't. Do you know what? Funnily enough, I didn't see that, but that is really quite cringe, and they deserve everything they get just for doing that. But yeah, there wasn't all too much from their perspective at all in the first half. DME in the full game, other than those two chances, and just looking at the notes here that you kindly did this morning, and a very good point in that is the fact that we come out for the second half and we didn't really take our foot off the gas at all. I think Doak was a little quieter in the second half. Obviously, Stoke had sussed out that our game plan was try and get the ball to him as much as possible. He didn't have as much joy, but he did his part rather in the first half. But although we probably didn't have kind of as many chances in the second half, I just thought we were really professional. Just made maybe Riley McGree just rubbed off on everyone. We just made good decisions. We controlled the game in a sense where I was happy with us keeping the ball because we were keeping the ball whilst also kind of being of a danger at Stoke. But there was still that intent there. And I think that intent is always going to be there when you've got the likes of Doak, even Azaz to a point. And as you say, he was better yesterday than he was previously. I think, I mean, we discussed it last week, but that experiment of him playing off the left can just, for me now, be put to bed. If he's not going to be available to play in that 10 role, then you're better off just playing Hamilton or Bergsorg off the left. It's, for me, a waste of a position if you play Finn Azaz off the left. But anyway, I think, to be honest, obviously we'll talk about the second goal now, but kind of once we've got past that, I want to really, and we don't often kind of do it too much, but I really want to hone in on a couple of players where I think they deserve a lot of credit, and perhaps people watching the game or fans around the league and around the country won't kind of look at the result and immediately think of these two players because they don't stand out from a kind of non-watching fan perspective. But yeah, we'll save that for a little bit. Obviously, I'll give you a little teaser. One of the people that I'm going to praise involved in this goal, Emmanuel Latilaf, tireless effort, chasing down, harrying players, wins the ball back for us, and that allows Hayden Hackney to just do everything that we know he's brilliant at. The reason why we all call him Starboy, because he picks the ball up, drives straight through the Stoke midfield, gets to the edge of the box, and going back to that point about putting your foot through the ball, because Hayden Hackney's actually got a really good strike, and he just does exactly that, Nathan. He unleashes an absolute worldie of a strike straight into the top corner, stupendous knee slide to match the finish. And I mean, after last week, I think he'd hold his hands up, and we both spoke about it. Hayden Hackney, it was one of the worst games I've seen him have in a Middlesbrough shirt for a long time last week at the Stadium of Light. But by all means, that is the Hayden Hackney which is being consistently picked for England. That is the Hayden Hackney being linked with moves to here, there, and everywhere in the Premier League. That is just Hayden Hackney at his very best, driving straight through midfield and making things happen.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It was his best performance of the season yesterday. When he gets that ball in midfield and you sort of see him looking for a pass ahead of him, and then he just thinks to himself, yeah, there's nothing on. I'm just going to go on a meander forward. And that was it here. Lath chasing down Sidibe in midfield, who was just dilly-dallying on the ball. Slides in, nicks the ball. McGree lays it off, so this one actually counts as his assist, although it's like a Sergio Busquets assist for Messi when he just ran through the full team at the Bernabeu years ago. Hayden Hackney gets the ball, strides forward, skips past a couple of challenges, one from Ben Gibson who's laid on his arse, and yeah, just buries the ball in the top corner. It takes something to beat Johansson, as we know, and that one was a proper worldie. So yeah, Hayden Hackney off the mark for the season as well. He doesn't mind chipping in with the odd goal, so pleasing to get him off the mark. And yeah, that was the game well and truly wrapped up, which it was nice considering Sam Gallagher had just come on for Stoke. You'd messaged me to just make that point very clear that he was on the pitch. And do you want to know what? He should have been sent off as well. He really should have been sent off, and it boiled my blood. He's on a yellow card anyway for doing Ayling over the far side in front of the Stoke fans. And then, because Boro were just knocking the ball around them like they weren't there, he chopped down Hayden Hackney. No intent to win the ball, just kicked him with his right foot. Should have been sent off, wasn't. Referee doesn't want to officiate the game properly. That'll be my rant on referees.
Yeah, do you know what? As soon as Sam Gallagher come on, I just thought, oh my God. And to be honest, we'd had the whole like worry of Tom Cannon and the fact we've been linked with him so much. I mean, money well spent from Stoke there because they hold him off at half time. And I mean, realistically, I actually do like Tom Cannon, but if that is going to be their style moving forward, then he's not going to get a touch of the ball, let alone a goal, because there was nothing to suggest that he was going to get chances yesterday from that Stoke side. But again, I don't want to be drawn on them too much. I want to focus on our striker now, Nathan. And I want to talk about, as I say, he was involved in the goal, Emmanuel Latilaf. Now, Emmanuel Latilaf, he is in a position where at the start of the season, and by all means, we completely side with the club on this one, it was the correct decision, especially given the timing. But, you know, regardless of that, if you just think of Manuel Latilaf as an individual, he's been denied a move to the Premier League, probably the chance to quadruple his money. He's on a goalless run of, I think, now 8 games. And yet he still runs himself into the ground for the team. He's relentless in his press when he needs to be. You see him come off yesterday and stick his arms up to the whole stadium as if to say, get in, we've wrapped this one up. And then you see after the game, he's coming into the tunnel, celebrating the win even more so when the players are going back into the changing room. And I actually just think I must say there was, of course, the whole drama surrounding deadline day and did he refuse to travel or did he not? I think we spoke about the type of character that he's got to be to kind of, once he knew that wasn't happening on deadline day, jump in the car and travel down to Cardiff. But for me, it's a testament to his character that he could quite easily, especially given, you know, he's a striker, he wants to score goals. He's got every right to potentially have just thrown his toys out the pram. And look, okay, we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, but if you watch him on the pitch and watch his relentless running and look at his attitude, and yeah, okay, we'd love him to score some more goals, but you talk about mentality and you want players to buy in, you really can't argue with kind of what everything that Emmanuel Latilaf has been about since that move didn't happen, because I think honestly he deserves a lot of praise, and it's a bit of a testament to his character. You can say whatever you like about kind of the voices in and around him, but as a footballer and as everything, the way that he's acted since that didn't happen kind of mirrors everything, the noises that we heard coming out of the club. Carrick said it, Kieran Scott said it, that it was very kind of measured conversation the day when the move didn't happen, and he was quite happy to kind of, you know, just get his head down and move on. And often when scenarios like that happen, you often worry that it's just like a bit of a PR exercise just to say he's happy, he's fine, he won't cause any bother. And then behind the scenes, it's actually just a bit of a bad apple situation where he just downs tools, really. But the simple matter of the fact is, he hasn't done that, and he still basically runs himself into the ground and puts everything into his performances, even without the goals.
Yeah, 100%. As mentioned, that on that point of his relentless running, the the incident at the just as he was about to be taken off, when he's smashed Ben Wilmot into the West stand in an attempt to keep the ball in, which okay, he missed, but you should have seen his reaction. He was like gutted that he'd absolutely put him on his backside and just missed the ball. Was then taken off to a round of applause, standing ovation from the ground. Michael Carrick gave him a big hug, and seeing Jonathan Woodgate and the rest of the coaching staff laughing as he came off, Lath laughing as well, as he just bodied Wilmot into the tees. But also something on his performance yesterday and the chances that he did have. Hit the post with that header in the first half. But the one that does stand out is Neto Borges got the ball and drove inside, teed it off for Lath, and he just opened his body up to try and bend it into that far corner. Johansson gets down really, really well and knocks it round the post. If you actually watch Lath's reaction on the replays, he's actually on his knees, head in hands, can't believe that the ball's not gone in the corner. Yeah, he's desperate for a goal. You can see that he's trying his absolute heart out to get that goal, and he's due one. So it's coming. It is coming. It is coming for him.
Well, he scored at the Hawthorns last season, didn't he? Who
He
knows?
did.
He might pop up. He might pop up with a head. I fancy, you know what? I don't tend to make predictions on this podcast, but I fancy Laugh header on Tuesday night. He loves a leap, doesn't he? He has got an absolute spring on him. So, yeah, that would be lovely if you can stick one of those away. In terms of other unsung heroes, now, if you've listened to this podcast throughout the full season, you can berate me for this because I will hold my hands up. And I think I made a comment along the lines of George Edmondson absolutely reeks of no appearances and the loan to be terminated in January because he's not getting a sniff. And at that point, what I will say, in fairness to me, to kind of back myself up a little bit, is we didn't really know the extent of Rav's injury. We thought he was pretty much going to be back for the next game following the end of the transfer window. What I will say is, firstly, credit to the recruitment team, because it was a deal where now you look and you think, actually, we really did need him. You lost Paddy McNair in the summer, who, I mean, has been Middlesbrough's kind of go-to. You can describe him as Boro's James Milner, just fill in wherever needed for quite a few seasons, kind of going back through the years. And we've lost that side of, the quality that Paddy McNair brings you. But in terms of when I say about the recruitment team, Dale Fry and Daryl Lenihan have been out long term. Obviously, Rav's had his injury problems. And then, to be fair to Matt Clark, this is the first injury he's picked up since he was out for the best part of 18 months or something like that. Apart from Harley Hunt, I mean, yesterday, Aylin's obviously filled in at centre half, but we really, really would have been down to the absolute bare bones if George Edmondson hadn't been brought in. So there's the praise for the recruitment team. But in terms of George Edmondson, I've actually been really, really pleasantly surprised with him. He's pretty much fitted seamlessly into the back four. One thing that stood out to me is he's actually a lot better on the ball than I think most people would probably give him credit for, including me. So again, I'm happy to take any comments on the chin. He absolutely just lives for defending. And I think just overall, that kind of bit of experience, that bit of know-how in the back line, without him, realistically, where would we actually be in terms of our defence? Because it would be as makeshift as you could possibly imagine if he wasn't there. And I actually think I know we had this discussion last week, but obviously Rav's going to be back, and of course we don't know the extent. I don't think it's going to be too long, but if Matt Clark was to miss out on Tuesday night, then I honestly think we're in a situation now where it would be really unfair to drop George Edmondson, because I don't think he's had a bad performance yet.
Yeah, was sort of my point last week when we discussed what team would be playing this week, and you made the point about Rav Vandenberg being back possibly. Obviously, he made the bench yesterday and came on, but I said, look, you can't change that team from last week in terms of the back line, because Clark and Edmondson had been perfectly fine, or they did the defending, or they do their defending, and the only thing that you could possibly maybe want is someone who's a better progressive passer, but Edmondson can do that fine, and Clark can definitely do that fine. So that was my point last week. But yeah, George Edmondson, it's one of those signings, and I'd liken it to in previous windows, one of those where it's like a Lee Peltier or a Neil Taylor or a Tommy Smith that come in and you think nothing of it. You think, yeah, squad player. Like, probably not even gonna play a handful of games. And then when they've all come in, they all do a fantastic job. Just seasoned professionals that go about their business with no fuss, hardly ever make a mistake. Look, they don't necessarily go above an 8 out of 10. They're just your bog standard 7 out of 10 every week. That's fine. Just get the job done. And George Edmondson is that, just reliable when called upon. Ipswich fans said it last season, based on him when he was called upon for them in big games. Like I think there was one towards the end of the
I
season
think it
where,
was Coventry away where he come in.
yeah,
I seem to remember them playing in that orange kit.
yeah, called in at Coventry away, which obviously we as Boro fans know is a stupid place to go. And yeah, filled in perfectly fine. One man of the match on the night. Yeah, top defender. That's just another one to add to our list of top championship defenders. Just the only problem is he's the only one fit currently.
Yeah, it's quite crazy actually, to the extent of the injury problems, and specifically in that area. And do you know what? When I talk about Middlesbrough's recruitment, and we all get excited about the younger names, the likes of Hamilton, the likes of Doak, the likes of Conway. But I think something that, again, I think we made the point, to be honest, when we were kind of reflecting on the transfer window. But one thing I do like about our recruitment is, by all means, we buy certain players with one eye on the future. But even like the Luke Ayling signing, there is 100% a space in any championship squad that is looking to get in and around the playoffs, or even challenge the top two, where you need a bit of experience, you need a bit of know-how, you need someone that knows the league. And Middlesbrough recruitment has allowed them to almost be just sensible. There's not really any risk factor at all to the signing of George Edmondson, and it's already paying serious dividends. It is just the signing that, as you say, you don't sort of see the notification come through on your phone and go, oh my God, I'm going to get him on the back of my shirt. But when you actually, when he's called upon, and no more periods than kind of what he is now, he steps in, does his job, goes home. And I must say as well, even from his interviews, and I know like little things like this, again, we're not in the dressing room, we don't know, but he just seems like a lovely bloke. He just seems like a really good character. There's no kind of ego about him. The fact, do you know what I really loved about him? And I thought, yeah, he's salt of the earth and he's going to fit right in. The fact in his first interview, he made a reference about how bad his hairline was. And I thought that's the kind of self-awareness that I'm absolutely on board with. He's just going to do his job and he's going to be a 7 out of 10 every single game. And George Edmondson, you spoke about trying to win yourself a contract. You're doing a very good job at doing so at the moment.
Yeah, just agree with everything you've said, Chris. I was laughing in his first start for us against Preston. Him and Matt Clark next to each other were the centre back partnership in which Derby had minus 21 points and Wayne Rooney was the manager. Just makes me laugh how much those two have improved, if I'm honest. But yeah, Chris, a win on the board, and it just makes everyone feel a little bit more upbeat about the week ahead, because I think if we hadn't have won on Saturday, and especially because of how convincing we won and our performance being top notch at the weekend, it allows us to go into this week with a lot more confidence than we would have done had it been a poor performance, more of the same as Sunderland. Because up next is top of the league away from home, West Bromwich Albion. Very, very interesting side with a manager that just knows how to get things done in this division, doesn't he? He hasn't got bags of experience at the level. I think he's only managed 3 seasons in the Championship. But by God, does he know how to get the best out of his team? Carlos Corberan, his sides are always very well drilled. And look, the top of the league for a reason. Ironically enough, they lost this weekend away at Sheffield Wednesday. Went 2-0 down in the game, got themselves back to 2-2, and then conceded 2 minutes after getting that equaliser. Something that I imagine will happen in their situation this on Tuesday night is there'll be changes in midfield. Alex Moat, obviously ex-Boro, we liked him when he was here. He didn't start the game on Saturday for whatever reason. They went with a bit of a different midfield. I imagine Moat will be back in, probably alongside Malumbi as well, who was also left on the bench. I don't know what the thinking was behind changing a midfield that had won 3-0 at Portsmouth the previous week, but look, I don't get paid to make those decisions. They've got danger men at the top of the pitch. Obviously, we know John Swift from his time in the Championship, but the two that stand out are Tom Fellows on the right-hand side, who his trademark is very similar to Ben Doak, actually. A step over and to the byline and stand across up to the back post, and stood at the back post as being the recipient of all those crosses, the top goal scorer in the division so far, Josh Madger. I can't even say his name. Josh Madger, ex-Sunderland, ex-Fulham. And yeah, strange that
He's having a
not,
bit of a, dare I say it, his Tuba Akpom season, or at least the start of the season anyway.
well, at the minute he's having a lath purple patch, because I won't go as far as Tuber Akpom. But yeah, he's doing really well for them. 7 goals this season, and look, he's a danger man. He's taken a lot of chances, and yeah, the hot streak is well and truly underway for him. A player that has been hit and miss since his Sunderland days, but he's definitely firing on all cylinders at the moment. But look, they're a good side in every area of the pitch. Defensively, very, very solid. They always are, really. Corberan sides don't give too much away. I won't forget us going to the Hawthorns a couple of years ago, being 2-0 down within the first 10 minutes and literally not creating a chance for the rest of the game. They just shut us out completely. Look, it'll be a really, really difficult test going there. And Michael Carrick said that on BBC Tees yesterday. I do think this will be a real interesting game to see where we're at, and I'll be interested to see what they do as well, because Corberan doesn't mind changing a system when he's playing specific opposition. And look, we spoke about our way of playing, and teams just had that blueprint that Sunderland copied and Preston used. Weird that Stoke didn't use it because it would have probably caused us problems. But we'll see what West Brom do. It'll be a very interesting game for sure.
Yeah, and I think in terms of individual battles, you did mention him, but Neto Borges, if ever there was a time to really show exactly what you're about from a defensive perspective, and by all accounts, all of the comments are from those French football experts, everyone that's kind of followed that league and knew of the player, the main thing that they kind of picked out as being one of his strengths was his 1v1 defensive ability. Now, in terms of a yardstick of where you're at and where your abilities are at, you're probably not going to come up against a more difficult winger in the championship at the moment than Tom Fellows. So that'll be a really interesting one. And I mean, you think of some of the individual performances that Lucas Engel had at the beginning of his Middlesbrough career, and you just kind of pray that it's not going to be one of those evenings. Let's hope that he has his real kind of introduction to Middlesbrough fans as the left back that we all kind of thought he was when we were signing him. And to be honest, we still don't know, but let's see what he's got in his locker to try and stop Tom Fellows. But yes, obviously, as you say, it's going to be an incredibly difficult game. And this week as well, obviously with kind of the typical Boro injury front nature of things, you almost just kind of want to get through Tuesday night, try and get a decent result, and then just hope no one else is injured because you've got another game coming up. And again, it's a place where over the years, it's not always been the prettiest of kind of away days for Middlesbrough fans.
Yeah, it hasn't, and that's Watford and Vicarage Road next week, next Saturday. The final game before another shitty international break, Chris, because they just come round so quickly. Yeah, Watford, a strange side, if I'm honest. I didn't expect them at all to get off to the start that they have done. They currently lie a position above us in the division, and they beat the Mackems on Saturday, which is quite pleasing. But yeah, look, another different system to deal with. We saw it slightly in that final game of last season, which is just almost a case of just a kickabout on the final day of the season. Tom Cleverley was in charge of Watford that day, and he is still in post, much to the surprise of everyone in football, knowing Watford's history with managers. But yeah, three at the back for Watford, and very much in terms of their attacking players, it's a front three, but the two behind a one, which is usually Vacuum Bio. Those players are usually Edo Kayembe and Giorgio Chakvetadze, who,
What a pronunciation that is, by the way.
Chris, I'll tell you something. He was in my fantasy team for the Euros because he was the best budget option. And do you want to know what? Watching Georgia in the Euros, he was actually a proper player. And everything I've seen of Watford so far this season, which look, it's limited clips. I watch the EFL show every week. Nothing over the top, but he looks like a real danger man for them. Real good on set pieces and has definitely got a rocket on him. So a real danger man. And then a little bit of a throwback in midfield as well. Musa Sissoko.
Do you know what? The spine of their team has the feeling of kind of like a Chris Cassidy starter squad on like FIFA 11 or something like that, or FIFA 12. Angelo Ogbonna's in there, Jonathan Bond's in there. And then, as you say, Sissoko, you're looking at kind of 500 to 600 coins of just getting a decent little starter squad together and actually just dominating. I mean, I know this isn't an Ultimate Team podcast and it's a bit of a niche one, but yeah, there is some names in that team, isn't there?
Yeah, there is definitely. But on Watford's sort of style, and that three at the back, four in midfield with wing backs, and then the two just ahead. That's a box midfield. And if everything that I remember about box midfields is the job that those Sky Blues did on us in the playoffs with the box midfield, and then moving on into the first game of last season, Millwall deployed the exact same formation and beat us at the Riverside. Now, look, I can't necessarily remember too much in the second half of last season of teams playing that system against us. But just on past history, we have a real problem in terms of dealing with teams that play that style. So I hope Michael Carrick has the answer because I certainly don't. But yeah, it's a difficult ground to go to. Obviously, Sunderland fell foul of that this weekend. We've got to go there as the second Northeast team to go there in 2 weeks. Next weekend, hopefully we can end this block of games on a high and follow up a decent result at top of the league with another good result at a team in and around the playoffs that have got off to a real good start. We won there last year, which was quite pleasing. But the visit before that, I was in attendance on a Tuesday night. Chris Wilder was in charge.
I still remember it. I remember the almost second by second closing phase to that game, wearing a ridiculous black and white kit for some kind of anniversary of some sort. Rodrigo Muniz had just tried to lob the keeper from the halfway line, and ultimately that proceeded in Vakun Bio prodding one in what was it, the 93rd minute or something like that. I remember it as clear as day, Nathan.
So do I. I remember walking back into my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and having work the next day. It wasn't a very enjoyable trip home, I'll tell you that. Let's hope that the next one is on Saturday. It promises to be a real interesting week where you can sort of look at, okay, a very injury hit Middlesbrough squad, but a very capable Middlesbrough squad still, and see where we are currently at in terms of opposition. No disrespect to Stoke, they were very poor yesterday. They really were. These two sides have got confidence oozing through the pair of them, and will be looking to put down a marker by beating a team that is hopefully going to be in and around the playoff places at the end of the season, putting them away at home before an international break. Let's hope that we can sort of spoil that a little bit and take a couple of good results this week.
Really random one before we do wrap up. Just wanted to give a little bit of praise to Anthony Dijksteel yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with you. Steady, as mentioned on my point about Azaz earlier, he did a real neat bit of skill, Dijksteel, down the right hand side very early on in the game where he just skipped past Bai Ho and just got us on the front foot so quickly. Just pretty much just eradicated their press in a little shimmy onto his right foot and played a ball into Azaz. Yeah, I thought he was very comfortable yesterday. Evidently eased back in as well with his lack of minutes. I think he was substituted after about 70, wasn't he, Anf? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he whether he starts any of the games in the week. But look, it's very pleasing to have Anthony Dijksteel playing well
He's
and,
back.
and
He's back at a level now where if anything was to happen to Luke Ayling, I wouldn't feel really, really worried by
look,
it.
Chris, you never know. We might have to have Anthony Dijksteel at centre half soon
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you've got a point. Given the track record with injuries, you wouldn't really be shocked if Woody lined up as a centre half on Tuesday night because God knows what they'll be doing in training from now until then. But yeah, let's let's keep a positive attitude and a positive attitude to the injury front and not kind of bring it down with the fact that they've actually got an assault course and then a Royal Rumble to finish off before the final session as they head off towards West Brom. But yeah, Nathan, an upbeat one. Obviously, we're probably not going to get as many views this week because all the Sunderland fans will, well, they'll be crying into whatever their cheesy chips, isn't it, that they eat. So yeah, let them get on with that. And if you have watched and you're a Middlesbrough fan, give us a nice comment, because we had a few nasty ones last week, and it you know, everyone needs a nice comment now and again, don't they? So yes, as always, thank you ever so much for your time, Nathan. Thank you to everyone that has watched and listened. Please make sure to, as I say, leave a comment. You can comment on Spotify as well. So if you're on audio platforms, give us a rate and review. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And once again, that has been another episode of the Boropolis podcast.